Why America abandoned the Cabover truck. There was a time when Cabover trucks dominated American highways. You could see them everywhere on interstate highways, inside freight yards, at loading docks, and hauling cargo across the country. Trucks from International Mack Kenworth White and other manufacturers were built with the driver sitting directly above the engine. But today, walk onto an American highway and you will mostly see something completely different. Long-nose conventional trucks. So what happened? How did one of America's most popular truck designs go from dominating the roads to becoming almost invisible in long-haul trucking? The answer comes down to regulations, comfort, safety, and one major change that happened in 1982. What exactly is a cabover? First, let's clear up what a cabover actually is. A cabover, or cab over engine truck, places the driver's cab directly above the engine. Instead of having a long hood in front of the driver, the front of the truck is almost completely vertical. The engine sits underneath the cab, which makes the truck much shorter overall. Compare that with the conventional trucks we see today from manufacturers like Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner, and Mack. On a conventional truck, the engine sits in front of the driver underneath a long hood. That extra length might look unnecessary, but for American truckers today, it provides several major advantages. And ironically, there was a time when that long hood was a serious disadvantage. When cabovers ruled America. From roughly the 1940s through the 1970s, cabovers were incredibly popular in the United States. But the reason wasn't simply because truckers loved the design. It was because of the rules. Back then, federal regulations limited the overall length of the truck and trailer combination. That meant every foot mattered. If a conventional truck used a large portion of the legal length for its hood and engine compartment, there was less room available for the trailer. For a trucking company hauling freight, losing valuable trailer space could directly affect profits. The cabover solved that problem. By placing the engine underneath the driver, manufacturers could build a much shorter tractor while giving the trailer more usable length. For an owner-operator trying to maximize every load, that was a huge advantage. The cabover wasn't just practical. It made economic sense. And for decades, it was one of the smartest choices a trucker could make. Then came 1982, and everything changed. The 1982 rule change. 1982 was a turning point for American trucking. Before this change, the overall length rules made the compact cabover design extremely valuable. But the federal regulations changed how trailer length was treated. A maximum trailer length of 53 feet became the standard for many long-haul operations, and crucially, the tractor cab was no longer eating into that trailer length calculation in the same way. That completely changed the economics. Suddenly, manufacturers could build a long-nose conventional truck with a large, comfortable cab while still pulling a full-length trailer. Truckers no longer had to choose between cargo capacity and a spacious tractor. They could have both. And once that happened, the biggest reason for choosing a cabover disappeared. Why didn't manufacturers just build better cabovers? This raises an interesting question. If cabovers were too cramped and uncomfortable, why didn't manufacturers simply make them bigger? The problem was that some disadvantages were built into the basic design. Noise and vibration. On a conventional truck, the engine sits in front of the driver. The hood firewall and physical distance help separate the driver from the massive diesel engine. In a cabover, the engine is directly underneath you. Engine noise and vibration can travel directly into the cab. For someone driving for 10 or 12 hours, that can make a noticeable difference. And when the same truck becomes your bedroom at night, vibration and engine noise become even more important. Ride quality. Cabovers also tend to have a more compact wheelbase. That compact design is excellent for maneuverability, but over thousands of highway miles, a longer wheelbase can provide a smoother and more stable ride. American trucking involves enormous distances. Drivers can spend days crossing multiple states. Over those distances, even small differences in ride quality can become significant. Getting in and out. Another issue is cab height. Because the cab sits over the engine, the driver is positioned relatively high above the ground. Getting into a cabover means climbing several steps. Do that repeatedly at fuel stations, truck stops, loading docks, and rest areas, and the constant climbing can become tiring. A conventional truck also sits high, but the entry arrangement is generally more convenient for many drivers. Engine access. Then there is maintenance. On a conventional truck you open the hood and the engine is right in front of you. On a cabover, accessing the engine usually means tilting the entire cab forward. That can provide excellent engine access once the cab is tilted, but preparing the truck for service can be more involved. Anything loose inside the cab needs to be secured before the cab moves. For a working truck, especially one being repaired on the road, simplicity matters. The American trucking lifestyle. But perhaps the biggest reason cabovers lost the American market wasn't mechanical. It was lifestyle. American long-haul truckers often spend weeks living inside their trucks. For many owner-operators, the truck isn't simply a vehicle. It's their home. Modern American sleeper trucks can include large beds, refrigerators, microwaves, televisions, storage cabinets, extensive living areas, and much more. Some customized trucks are essentially tiny apartments on wheels. And this is where the conventional design has a major advantage. Because the cab sits behind the engine, manufacturers have more freedom to design a large sleeper compartment. A cabover can certainly have a sleeper. European manufacturers have proven that. But the layout creates different packaging challenges. Once American regulations allowed manufacturers to build long-nose trucks without sacrificing trailer space, comfort became a much stronger selling point. And American truckers chose comfort. What about safety? There is another factor that often comes up when comparing cabovers with conventional trucks. Safety. In a cabover, the driver sits very close to the front of the vehicle. There is very little structure ahead of the driver. A conventional truck has the engine compartment and hood in front of the cab. That gives engineers additional space to manage energy during certain types of frontal impacts. However, it's important not to oversimplify this. Modern cabover trucks can be engineered with sophisticated safety systems and strong occupant structures, and safety performance depends heavily on the specific truck crash and regulations involved. Still, the conventional layout provides a physical buffer that many American drivers appreciate. And when you combine safety concerns with comfort, ride quality, maintenance, and the new length regulations, the conventional truck became increasingly attractive. Did cabovers completely disappear? Not at all. They mostly disappeared from American long-haul freight. Look around cities and you will still find cabovers everywhere. Garbage trucks, fire trucks, delivery trucks, tow trucks, concrete mixers, urban work trucks. Because the advantages of a cabover become extremely useful in tight environments. The shorter overall length makes maneuvering easier. The driver gets excellent forward visibility. There is no long hood blocking the view directly in front. That can be extremely valuable when navigating narrow streets, crowded loading areas, and busy city environments. So the cabover wasn't a bad design. It simply became less suitable for America's long-haul trucking environment. Why Europe still loves cabovers. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Cabovers didn't disappear everywhere. In Europe and much of Asia, they remain extremely common. Why? Because the roads and regulations are different. European roads can be narrow, winding, and difficult to navigate with a long hood. European truck regulations also place significant limits on the overall dimensions of truck combinations. That makes compact truck designs extremely valuable. Manufacturers like Volvo, Scania, Mercedes-Benz, DAF, and MAN have continued developing highly sophisticated cabover trucks. Modern European cabovers can be quiet, comfortable, efficient, and technologically advanced. So saying that the cabover is an inferior truck would be completely wrong. It's simply a different solution to a different problem. Could cabovers ever return to America? Could American long-haul trucking eventually return to the cabover? Maybe, but right now it seems unlikely. American highways are designed around long-distance travel. Truckers continue to value spacious sleeper cabs. Manufacturers have spent decades developing conventional platforms. And the regulations that originally made cabovers economically necessary have not returned. Even the rise of electric trucks hasn't completely changed the situation. Electric trucks don't need a traditional diesel engine sitting under a long hood. Yet American electric semis, such as the Freightliner eCascadia and Volvo VNR Electric, still use conventional-looking layouts. That's because the reasons behind the American preference aren't only about where the engine sits. They're about comfort, safety, ride quality, packaging, driver expectations, and the entire trucking lifestyle. The real reason America moved on. So why did America abandon the cabover? There wasn't one single reason. The biggest turning point was the change in length regulations. Once the cab no longer had to sacrifice valuable trailer space, the economic advantage of the cabover largely disappeared. Then truckers had a choice. They could have a compact cabover. Or they could have a long-nosed truck with a larger, more comfortable living space without giving up trailer capacity. For American long-haul trucking, the choice became obvious. The cabover wasn't defeated because it was a bad truck. It lost because America changed. The roads changed. The regulations changed. The trucking lifestyle changed. And what American drivers wanted changed. Meanwhile, Europe and Asia continued operating under different conditions, so the cabover remained the perfect solution for their needs. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. There is no single truck design that is perfect for every country. The best truck is the one that matches the roads, regulations, drivers, and job it was built to handle. So what do you think? Could the cabover ever make a serious comeback in American long-haul trucking? Or is the long-nosed truck here to stay? Let me know what you think.